Oh, there you
Some
go.
tofu soup leftovers from last night.
Yeah.
Uh, Give me, while I'm setting up the Instagram feed, the history of our calendar
Oh, word. So,
from ancient times to present and go.
yeah. Okay. So I'm sure there are more prior, but basically from all the way back to before Christ, we were using a Julian calendar created by Julius Caesar. It had 13 months in the year instead of 12. And there was typically, I think every month only had 28 days. Um, so,
Are there but there are only 12 full moons, right?
yes, I believe so.
Interesting. So where did
So,
the 13 come from?
you know, I'm still in the process of researching that, how the 13 came about. I know it was, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 13th month is like in between it's like the month in between the last cycle of the year and the first cycle of the year. So it's like, you know how you can do like, if you go somewhere, it's like 5 days and 7 nights or 7 nights and 8 days kind of thing. I think that's how it works with the months. Um, but I'm not sure. I'm still researching that part. So basically, the Gregorian calendar, the one we use now, came out in 1580 something. And that was basically to fit with the at the time, the newly discovered concept of our Earth orbiting a sun instead of our sun orbiting the Earth, which is actually kind of crazy because if you do the math and look into the physics, if you put the Earth at the middle and everything is rotating around it, it all works the same as if you put the sun in the middle and orbit everything around it. So basically, Pope Gregory the 13th was the one who implemented the Gregorian calendar that we use today, which I didn't really start looking into until I joined the Orthodoxy Church. And everything about Orthodoxy is very, very, very old school. They try and stay as original as they can to the time of Christ and the disciples. And believe it or not, our our Easter for the Orthodox is actually next week. This last Sunday was Palm Sunday for us. So yeah, and that's all because we go off of a Julian calendar and not a Gregorian calendar. So, okay, and 45 BCE was when the Julian calendar. So I'm pretty sure it's like the Julian and the Gregorian calendar are the only two. Um, there are actually a handful of countries. I think there's like 5 or 6 that don't use the Gregorian calendar. Um, and most of them are Arab countries, I think. And it'll tell you in this breakdown as you scroll through. But yeah, it's kind of wild. This has been an interesting an interesting rabbit hole I decided to go down because I was like, where did our calendars come from, and is the church I go to using a different calendar? And this little breakdown that you've got up made a lot of sense to me because like everything the Orthodox does is as close to like the time his disciples and Christ was walking around. So they even reject the Catholic calendar. They're like, nope, that's not us. And it there's a lot of stuff around like a lot every time Christmas and Easter come around, there's a lot of stuff around like pagan holidays and such. And it got me curious, like, does the Julian calendar line more up with a lot of those like pagan moon cycles type uh deals, or does the Gregorian calendar line up more with those? Because pagan beliefs are almost older than Christianity. So um, it's just kind of a wild concept to me. Time and history are nuts.
It is always wild to hear about kind of pagan rituals or pagan things that kind of work their way into modern monotheistic religions.
Yeah.
Or what do you, is that right? Modern, like single God religions.
Yeah, that's monotheistic. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so my wife, she went to college for biblical studies and theology kind of stuff. And there's actually like when you go back when Christianity was first kind of taking the reins, a lot of people who were converting to Christians were pagan prior. And so a lot of their practices kind of worked into the Christian worldview, I guess. And it was literally just a cultural thing. Like we're Christian, we follow the Bible, but this is how our culture is going to celebrate this. And that's kind of where the Christmas tree and the Yule log and all that stuff comes from. So it's literally just a practice that people had been doing, and they decided to incorporate those practices in with their faith. They weren't, from my understanding, they weren't like worshiping these multitude of gods anymore. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm hard to talk about it because I am not the most knowledgeable. Like if I had my wife on here, she would just have you guys going, wait, what? Wait, what?
I would love to bring her on. Like I'd love to, yeah, like the kind of someone who's a historian of religion,
Yeah.
right? Like I always find that interesting. Someone who's read like all the different books and studied
Well, yeah, she
studied
takes
in other languages.
the
Yeah.
language. Like a big misconception is that the Bible was written in Hebrew, which is not true. Hebrew was kind of for the learned people. So the modern day man, the modern Jew didn't speak Hebrew. They
No.
actually spoke Greek and wrote Greek. So the Bible was first written in Greek. And a lot of people have that misconception. So my wife also learned how to like do exegesis on the Bible, which is basically like you pick up one word and you go and see how many different times and all the various ways it was used. And then you go all the way back to the original text and the language it was written in. And you compare those words and what they meant back when everybody was speaking Greek. So it's really a trip. There's a lot of misconceptions around biblical history that people just assume or they've heard, but they've not really done a whole lot of research into. And whether you're Christian or not, the history is there and the evidence of the history is there. And it's actually a trip when you get into it. It is
Yes.
absolutely.
And the weaponization of religion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Another...
I had this weird epiphany this morning, actually, because I was kind of thinking about the crucifixion and such, and it makes sense. So when Christ was crucified, it was a lot of his followers who happened to be Jewish were the ones who like agreed to have him crucified, because Pontius Pilate basically put Christ in this thief. I can't remember. It starts with a B. Put them up and had the crowd decide who was going to be crucified and who wasn't. And they all chose Jesus. Well, at the time when that was going on, there was a lot of turmoil between the Jews and the Greeks. And basically, like Jesus had ruffled some feathers. And so the Greek were basically trying to keep control of their society. And the Jews were trying to implement this like heretical punishment on Christ. And so obviously Christ gets crucified. Well, later down the road after that, the Catholic Church shows up, and it's known as the Roman Catholic Church. So in my mind, I was like, oh, the Greeks saw this going on. They decided they were going to try and take control of a version of this religion so that they could have control over the people too, because they didn't have any control over the Jews. So if they allowed the Jews to crucify this guy that was supposedly most of their savior, if they lined up with that and created a political organization, aka the Vatican, then they could really actually control the narrative around Christianity. And I feel like that's happened. And I'm not trying to get into like a religious debate with anybody, but when you really dig into the history, it's wild how quickly the Christian faith and the Greek/Roman law matched up really fast.
Yeah, didn't they like co-opted it?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of like a jujitsu move, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they're
100%.
taking this like, oh shit, what do we do with this like groundswell of like belief system that threatens our rule?
Yep. Yeah, it was kind of wild. I was like, it's like 8:30 in the morning, and I'm staring out the window, going, "Oh, that makes too much sense."
That's funny.
But yeah, one of these days, my wife is always working when we do the Friday podcast. But one of these, and we're actually the only time we have together in between our days off is like Sunday afternoonish, because I get off at like 3. So we could definitely schedule something for a Sunday if you want to get that breakdown from her. I know she'd be excited to do it.
Yeah. Now my thing is always, and I love people tuning in and being like, "What the fuck are we talking?" Like, it's titled data entry, which is ambiguous, but I'm glad people came for the data entry. But no, I love, yeah, it's like having smoking weed and listening to people who know what they're talking about talk about whatever the topic may be. Like,
well, and even the back and forth, like we've talked about doing this for a long time, just putting up a camera in our living room, because the back and forth my wife and I have around the subject almost every morning is amazing, because she'll dig into something that she learned from school. She'll apply that skill to like our conversation, and we'll start like going through what logically makes sense and what historically makes sense, and where like theological fallacies start coming into play. And I don't know, it's really it's a fun thing for me, and I don't know, I just have a blast with it. It'd be cool to share that with more people, because we cover stuff that I don't think, like we talk about stuff that I don't think most people talk about in general, unless you're like really into the subject. So it's always fun to kind of have that conversation around people who just sit and listen, and then when they come up with questions, it like starts a fire to a whole new conversation. It's so fun.
Yeah. No, I'd be, yes. I like when my brain gets a workout, and or just like, yeah, things that get my mind racing.
Mm-hmm.
Like my brother's wife is Zoroastrian, which I had never heard of before. Kevin, we're talking religion, and go.
What's up, bud?
I'll give you 3 words. Like Harry Mack, we'll give you 3 words, and then you can riff off of. No, I was just talking about my brother's wife is Zoroastrian, and so like, you know, I didn't know it was it's the oldest still. I don't know if it's the oldest ever, or certainly the oldest still living and practiced monotheistic religion, which I find pretty interesting.
Like, for people, a lot of people don't realize this, right? But like when I was a kid, I was Protestant, right? So I didn't give a fuck. I didn't go to church, none of that shit. My mom, who's a brilliant engineer, and she's working with all these Israelis. My mom gets hit in the head and has brain damage, and decides that she wants to become an Orthodox Jew. So when I was 6, my mother and I became Orthodox fucking Jews. And I went to the most prestigious parochial school in Rhode Island for fucking Jews, right? So I learned how to fucking write Hebrew. I learned how to read Hebrew. I learned.
Wait, what school?
It was a Providence Hebrew Day School.
Okay.
And at that time in the 70s, that shit was like $4,000 a year. So like we're talking like, you know, $35,000 a year to go to that motherfucker right now, right? All the fucking professors were brought in. And but the problem was, that it was, the irony was that all of a sudden, because I'm suddenly now Jewish, my whole neighborhood fucking hated me. So I got to learn what anti-Semitism is, right? I'm like, wow, all of a sudden I'm a Jew. Neighborhood hates you. Like yesterday I was Kev, now I'm Jew Kev. And I'm like, whoa, this is fascinating. But at the school, I didn't have any problems with the rabbis, but the fucking kids were brutal because I wasn't a real Jew and I wasn't upper echelon. So even though we had money, we weren't money like the kids at the school.
No, you didn't have the blood in you.
No, and so what I was doing is I was putting blood in their fucking mouths because I didn't want to hear that shit, right? So it caused problems because I was a kid from a rough neighborhood, and when people shit on you, you lash out, right? So holy shit. So I never went to a kid's fucking house once, never went to any kind. I got excommunicated from that whole group because I was what they call me, fucking ghetto boy. Because I was from a neighborhood. Now, mind you, now my mother's successful as fuck. My father's got rolling money, but we're talking the difference between like millionaire and billionaire shit. And so when it was time for my bar mitzvah, I was like, I'm good. I said, I don't have any personal bias against the religion, but I'm not Israeli. I'm not a Jew. And even though like I had done really well in school, academically, I do well, right? So like, I don't give a fuck where you put me. If it's looking at information, remembering it, and fucking and reciting that shit back from memory, I'm fucking money on it. But the point was that I was not Jewish, and so I said, listen, I'm just going to go back to wherever I was, which is fundamentally agnostic, right? So like I'm more of a spiritualist. I believe that the world is somehow connected to some degree, but I don't necessarily need a monotheistic God to answer all my questions. I don't need to create a series of gods to answer my questions. I don't need a single God to answer my question. When I have a bad time, what I'm saying is like to the general power, fucking hold on. And I believe that all of us are connected because we're all organisms in a system. But for me, I was fortunate that I got that education because I was getting an education from, theological scholars from Israel who, when they weren't fighting fucking wars, were studying the Talmud. And what it did for me, it was tremendous, was it helped me understand a system that creates a place for all people. And at least within the religion, right? Where when the grain hits the ground, the poor get to glean the gleanings. That kind of shit I respected because it made me understand everyone should be treated fairly within your system. I just expand it to where you don't have to be in my system for me to be fair to you. We don't have to pray to the same God. We don't have to be the same color. We don't have to agree on sexuality. We don't get to agree on a fucking thing other than we're both breathing air in the world we're in. And I could be cool to you. So it was a really good lesson because I got to experience incredible from 6 to like 13. Holy Jesus Christ. I got to experience unbelievable segregation from the neighborhood and the comments that people would make. I'd be like, whoa, it blew my mind. All of a sudden I was a Jew and the Jew hate of the poor neighborhood was unreal, but the Jew hate of a poor person was unreal. And so I never carried it forward. That's why I trip out to people get all in it. I like, no, I have friends that are Israeli. I have friends that are Jewish in America. I have also friends that are Muslim in America and friends that are Muslim because they're from Muslim nations born and bred. Why can't I have that cluster of friends? Why do I have to be so judgmental on how you pray to God?
There's no rule. That's the thing. Like even in Orthodox Christianity, the prayer part is just it's more of a proven way to channel Christ. It's not necessary, but it's like when compared to growing plants, when we know what's effective, we'll tell people this is highly effective and consistently effective, and you should do this to achieve the highest results. Mm-hmm. That's what prayer is, and that's why every faith has like in Orthodox specifically, everything is chant. It's a very chanty, and that's because sound connects us. It vibrates.
Oh, totally. It's how we make these connections.
So it becomes
and
a tool,
for me,
not a necessity, a tool.
Yeah, as long as you don't put that shit on top of me.
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody that I read the fucking Bible because I figured let me take a read of it myself. And it's a treasure trove of valuable information, but I also know it's written by a bunch of old white men. So I take, because the King James version is without question adulterated from the original script. And so what we know is that you have to take it and look at it in
came the Schofield.
you gotta look at it in this perspective. And I look at all these texts and books because at the end of the day, every one of them is centered to the people who wrote it, just like history. I love history, right? But I also know the victors wrote the motherfucking book, not the loser. And so what I know is that people should have the ability to believe as they choose. And as long as you don't inflict that upon others as a mandate, you have 100% freedom to do as you choose. And I'm the same with a lot of shit. Basically, the only thing I really can't fuck with is if you are, you're abusive to your lady or you're abusive to kids.
Yep.
Right? Like, those are things like, wait a minute, man. Like, wife beating shit. I grew up in domestic violence, right? I'm not into that shit. And I fucking grew up around lunatics that were fucking my life up. I ain't around that either. So those are the only things I interact with where I'm like, don't fucking do that or I'll get in your business. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I give people total freedom that you should have the ability to believe what you want. And if you're debating it with me, I don't have to agree. I can have a dissenting opinion, but I don't go at you for that. And so what it's done for me is it's allowed me to have this cornucopia of people in my life that are as diverse and different as anyone I know. Like, I got a fucking list of people I roll with that under any circumstances you couldn't imagine they would all be in the same room at the same time.
Right.
But when you put them all in the same room at the same time, because it's not that I'm the hub of earth. It's just that in that hub, these are all spokes. We all come together. The common thing I'm seeking is good person.
Yeah.
It never doesn't transfer to other people. And people are always able to say, hey, you're a good individual. You're a Buddhist. You're a Taoist. You're a Confucianist. You're Catholic. You're a Muslim. You're Hebrew. You all
love your neighbor like you love yourself, brother.
Yes, and be decent to other people, and don't inflict your shit on other people especially when they need help. It's like, wait a second, that's when you put that shit down. When people are having problems, you got to put down the beef. And sometimes it's hard, and you have to, like, I make mistakes, and then I have to come forward and say, look, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm triggered. So let me de-trigger. Let me apologize.
Yeah.
And then now let's figure out how to help you with what you're asking me to help you with if I can. And for the most part, it lets people let you back in because, like, we're human. So I give you the same space. If you step on my fucking toe, I don't get pissed off. I'm like, hey,
right.
If you come by and you step on it on purpose,
right.
I have a fucking problem, right? And so, and that's when I'm not cool.
I got to go back to work, family. This was great.
No, it's good because I respect you, and I know that you're I would say you're religious, but to me, what that means is that you're spiritual, but in your direction.
Yeah.
And I've always respected that about you because you treat people fairly, and any chance you've had to be a prick, you didn't take it.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Kate.
And I respect that shit right there.
Thanks, brother.
So much love, brother.
Hey, you too. Thanks, guys. Much love, fam.
Sling it some mail, brother. I just because Jeff posted something about the change in calendars in like the 1300s, but I mean, my general thing has always been the teachings of kind of all the religions are amazing, but the more layers of man you add between me who wants to embrace whatever the teachings are and the concept of God, I think that's where it just all goes astray, right? Like my dad used to always pray by himself in our local church at night versus being a part of 100 people showing up for Sunday service. Obviously, there are good people who are leaders of different religions, but there are also a lot of shitty people. Just like everywhere else in life, nowhere is safe from shitty human beings, right?
No, and I hung out with this kid that I would really call him a biblical scholar, This kid was almost unable to function doing normal things, but he had an ability to understand shit that others couldn't. So like he had a base. I bet the kid's worth $1 billion right now because of his baseball card collection. He had amassed a collection of things his whole life that was hyper valuable. And when that shit exploded, oh, I bet he just killed it. He was so far ahead of people in terms of that field of collectability. But he was a biblical scholar. He studied the Bible every day. And what he said to me was, you know what, Kev? He goes, you know what it's summed down to? Don't covet. Don't desire other people's shit. He goes, if I take the entire Bible and distill it into a phrase, it's don't covet. Don't desire other people's things, and you will be okay in life. And he never once put any kind of shit on but I never met anybody who literally went home every night and studied and studied and studied, a true biblical scholar, but never did he ever push it on anyone. And I hope that he was able to, because his card collection was, I couldn't believe when he showed me the cards. I says, what is this shit? And he goes, Tab, this is priceless. So I hope wherever the fuck you're at, Wayman, you're killing it somewhere, because you were a good ass kid. No, we were in the military together. And I used to always catch all this side work doing contracting when I was in the service, right? And I would bring my military coworkers with me on the job sites so they could get money too. Because in the military, you get paid like $3 an hour, and I was able to give you $25 an hour in the fucking 80s. So it was killer. So I used to always grab my workers, and they worked for me in the military. They were my technically employees because they were in my division and I ran the division. But I would bring him into work. And so it was great to talk to Wayman, because Wayman was somebody that could give you incredible insight on the Bible from an innocent perspective, where he had no agenda to influence anyone. He was trying to understand this complex guide of human interaction. And that's when I started to read it too. I said, I'll take a look. And I said, it was fascinating. Some of the insight is unbelievable. But if we use it to control or manipulate, to me, that it loses its teeth, because there's an agenda. Okay. And spiritualism should be, each individual should have their own right. And it's not for me to say what God you should pray to, what color, what sex. I don't give a fuck. I'm not qualified. I'm just me.
Yeah. I
can tell you about some weed, though.
Let's do that. I don't know how much time you have, so let's transition. All right, so you sent a bunch of stuff in. It seems like we have a lot of what is it? Sensi Star Puck, right? Crosses. So
yeah, it's a Sensi Star Puck male.
And who did that come from crickets and cicada too, or?
It did. It came from crickets, and then it was in a sift that I did. And I found this really, really exceptional male. And I liked using it because it gave me better body, better resin. And it gave me that light basement funk to weave in to thicken the recipe, so to speak, right? So like for years, it's odd, but like, I find really good males when I do the work, because I look through them. I either reverse them out or I run them, right? So this way I'm always looking for good reg males. And mostly because it's not that I'm anti-feminized, but it's that when you pull that Y chromosome out, you lose traits. And over the course of time, you can't get it through feminization, right? So feminization is a great tool, but the problem is the Y chromosome starts to become diminished. And what I want is that full package, mostly so that what you have is a bigger gene pool to look through. You have more diversity present, right? So for me, hunting regs was always what I liked, but mostly because it lets me have more retention of a broader spread of chromosomes. And so that male was cracking, and I sent it to a buddy of mine, and he used it on a whole ton of shit, and he just fucking had a field day with it. And that's where that Triangle Kush Sensi Star Puck came from. That was from Cam. So I released this cut into the world, and it was a TK, but had a better body on it. It was just really fucking greasy. and it had a little of that basement funk in the bottom of the gas, so it made it sexy. And I had a bunch of plants that I was like, man, I said I would love to run this into a bunch of these so that I can take that better frame, better resin, reasonable finishing time with that basement skunk bottom, but not overwhelming, and then add it to a bunch of plants that I thought would benefit from it. And that's what that project was. And then like I do with all these, in that project is that Sensi Star, that BX technically, but it was from the reversed Sensi Star puck that was just that super outlier that I had out for a few minutes, then we pulled it back. So only a couple handful of people got it, but it's fucking phenomenal. I used that female against that male so that people would have that work develop line. And so the thing is with a lot of these, the puck by itself is overwhelming, and it's incredible work. So Bob did a phenomenal job. So anybody who wants to put like funk on something, his puck work is incredible. It really, really drives that deep basement, musty, thick.
Is Rusty watching right now?
It is. It's thick, right?
There are certain people who are very into that.
Oh, yeah, no, he did an incredible job, right? And I got nothing but respect for Bob, man. He's fucking talented. Him and his gal, they got their shit together. I've known him for a long time. And I just think he does exceptional work. And for me, what I wanted was I wanted to get that down a little bit because it can overwhelm the profile. And so when I went through the original Sensi Star work, it was the same thing where the Sensi Star line he used was phenomenal, but I think it needed a little bit more, like a touch of citrus, a splash of it, and a little more of the metal. And so what I did is I went in and did all this work to bring another male into that so that I could work with it. And I ended up pulling it out. So like it's taking good work from people and then steering it in the direction you want. It's not that they did anything wrong. They didn't. They created an incredible base. It's just that in terms of preference, where do you move? So what I had, though, was a male that I really liked and had really, really good results in its progeny. And I lent it out to a friend for a year. And then I said, hey, I got a bunch of plants sitting here that I would love to tap back to that specific male instead of me having to go through and test males and do it again. So Cam just sent that male back to me. And then I think I laid it into like the UK cheese, which is phenomenal. Yeah. But the UK cheese got kind of a floppy body. And it would have a better frame on it if it was improved, but you can't self that UK cheese. It does not like to be selfed. It really doesn't. It does better on outcrosses. And so what I said is, let me lay this into it because that funk from the puck side of it will work with the cheese funk. So they should work together, and I should get a really good frame enhancement from it. The hemlock, which is a super rare cut out of Colorado, the hemlock, see there's also a Colorado Durban poison in there, right? So the Colorado Durban poison I get from a partner of mine out of the Midwest. I meet him at an event, and we smoke a jar of this shit, and I said, holy fuck, it's unbelievable. And he's like, bro, I'll send you a cut. So he sends me a cut, and I play with it outdoor. I play with it in the house, and it is a terp fucking monster. I want to say it comes out over like 5% terpinolene by itself. It is screaming. And it was an original Mel Frank cut and made it into Colorado and like 30 years ago. And they think it might have got like outcrossed to a super silver, but it takes the name Colorado Durban. And it was just a legend in its day. And so I start looking into it saying, look, if it was this popular at that time, somebody must have done some interesting work with it. So I go into Colorado and I get a hold of all my Colorado friends and say, where was this thing centered and who worked with it? And we found out that there was this cut called hemlock, and which is not what it's known by now, right? That name got removed when it went into the new tracking. So that's why it was so hard to find it. But I went through all the old crews in Colorado that had messed with that work. And it was that Colorado Durban to a Master Kush or a LA Confidential. And so it's supposed to be like this ungodly plant for extract. Well, we find the group. And I said to him, I said, hey, I'm trying to get a copy of it. And they're like, well, we don't want to give you a copy. And I said, well, it's okay. What I'll do is let me send you back the Colorado mother of it. So you have it. And you don't got to give me shit. It's all good. Just it's all right. If you like, I understand. If you don't want to share, the fucking ain't no share. But I'll still, since I'm talking to you about the project, let me just send you back the cut you don't have, which is the mother. That way, what you have is the ability to play with both of them and steer it, because that Colorado Durban is fucking phenomenal. I mean, I'm talking, you open a jar, it makes your eyes fucking hurt. And it's just, it's beautiful frame, great production, great plant. And lo and behold, the dude is like, holy fuck, you're gonna give me the plant regardless? And I said, yeah, I'm not tripping, bro. It's all right. I don't live and die off of any one fucking plant, right? They're just plants. This is what I do, so I'm not tripping. I'll send it to you. And he was so caught that I was going to give him the mother regardless, he sent me the cut. So I just didn't put it into the system for availability, but oh, it is a fucking killer. It's got a way bigger, more open frame, and it's, Jesus, it's good, man. It was like one of my chick's favorite. She liked that Panama Maui 5, and she fucking loved those. Like, just really, really electric, cerebral, great mouth, great longevity.
This is the Colorado Durban you're talking about?
The hemlock.
Oh, the hemlock.
Yeah, and she loved the Colorado Durban too, but she liked the hemlock more. It fit better her profile, a little less terpinolene, a little more exotic woven in. And so I wanted to take that Colorado Durban, which has a gorgeous frame, and put it onto that with that Sensi Star Puck male, so that I could take and bring the terpinolene down a tiny bit and bring up the base notes of what that Sensi Star Puck will deliver. So what it does, it lets us mess around with profiles that are desirous, but they're a little too one direction for some. And so frame-wise, they should line up nice. And then I tapped it into the hemlock, because the hemlock is her daughter. And the quality was so good that I was like, let me put it on this similar frame. Because everything we touched with that Sensi Star Puck male was just basically better frame, more resin, subtle basement funk underneath it. So when you have good males that have known traits they typically pass through in lines, I just went through and popped them together. So what would I don't have the list in front of me. What were the other ones on the list?
All right, we have UK cheese crossed with SSP, SSP crossed to itself. So that's just
that's the self SSP. That was that super outlier clone that was just stunning.
Right.
God damn, that was a stunner. And then I went back into that male.
With your stud male.
Yeah.
Okay, then you have the TK SSP crossed with SSP.
Yep, and the TK SSP was made by my partner Cam, where I sent him the male. He used it. He sent me back that TK, and then I had him send the male back to utilize too. Because like I said, I've done this for years. I find killer males, and then people are looking to do a project, and I'm like, look, I got the right male. I'll just send it to you, and you can fuck with it. And then sometimes what it does, it also makes me not have to hold another damn plant.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I just say
it's a win for everyone.
And then at some point, just send it back. And so he's hella cool, and he did a great job, and he worked that line. And so when I got the cut back from him in the mail, I said, let's go back into it one more time, so that what we're doing is we're just kind of increasing some of that funk to go along with the TK gas. And the plant was gorgeous outside. I didn't run it indoor. I ran those outside. What else you got?
There's the Black Veil.
The Black Veil, it's kind of cool. I got that from Sanctuary Seed. And I want to say it's like AK-47 White Widow. But it was I think it was, I had a name like 18 or something connected to it. But I was picking up a cut. I had lost a Black Lime Reserve 5, right? The original Black Lime Reserve cut I released into the system that was just killing it. My partner ends up killing the mom at my fucking house, and I never find it again. And lo and behold, I'm looking online, and all of a sudden I see the number 5 connected to a cut from Sanctuary Seed Bank, and I'm like, whoa! I hit him up and I said, "Is that mine?" And he's like, "Yeah, that came. It came through you, and we have it." And I said, "Holy shit!" So I said, "Let me get a copy back." So I bought a copy off of him so I could have that cut, because I had it was like, I released it 10, 11 years ago, 2012, 2013 time, 2014. So at least 12 years ago, I released it into the system. And it was killing it in LA. And in the process, though, he sends me that Black Veil, which was a gorgeous plant, and had a beautiful frame on it, just a resin producing demon. And I said, man, let me throw this Sensi Star puck on top of that AK-47 White Widow, because really what it to me was like a 90s homage. Because the Sensi Star, the White Widow, the AK, they were all, if you saw them in their day at their peak, they were stunning. And over the course of time, the males got lost. I don't give a fuck what story anybody tells me. There was a difference in the original releases than there are for years later subsequent releases. And if you played with the lines over time, you saw the change. Profiles shifted, and it wouldn't be epigenetics that quickly, because the bottom line is they're holding the male and female in same constraint. So it was this 90 homage. And so that black veil from Sanctuary was gorgeous. And I said, oh, this would line up beautifully as well, because it would augment the frame so you wouldn't have too wild a phenotypical distribution. It would throw a little bit of that funk in the bottom, because really that funk in the bottom of everything is what stays in your mouth. It's the funk that doesn't get burned off from heat, right? So we're talking multi-bond compounds, not delicate aromatics that disappear. And as a joint smoker, or if you like hash that tastes the same all the way through, it's those heavy bonded compounds. And that's really what Bob's work is that thick, heavy, that shit doesn't go away. It stays in your mouth, stays in your nose. What's the next one?
GHR3.
GHR3 was kind of cool. And GHR stands for Gold Hat Ron. And so Gold Hat Ron from Canada, right, was supposed to send me this Cambodian line so that I could, this acclimated, 30-year acclimated Cambodian line. And he sent me the wrong shit. But what he sends me is some really nice shit. So I knew it wasn't Cambodian when I popped it, but I said, holy fuck. And I kept.
Did he know what it was?
He had no idea either.
Yeah,
but it was super consistent in terms of,
I've had a
like,
similar experience with Ron, where I'm like, so give me the backstory on this. Well, mostly he's like, I'm retired, I don't give a shit.
yeah, he forgot. But he sent me some gorgeous seed stock, and so I ran through it, and it was some really nice herb, a lot of really good fruit profiles, beautiful product. But that GHR3 took your breath away when you smoked it, like it was a breath sucker. And it had the most beautiful gritty resin. It was just a gorgeous hash plant. And because it had such a full, rich, deep earth and nuanced type outdoors type, it was different than all the other sisters. Because I went through 50 of them, and I sat down and did, like, I go through all this shit, and then I make my gal sit down with me, and we spend fucking a week rolling and smoking hundreds of this shit and logging it, and then just canceling shit that we don't want. That GHR3, no matter how I looked at it or how long it sat, it didn't lose those characteristics. It had that beautiful, full, rich earth. It had an incredible fucking resin quality. I mean, like sand. Like when you broke it up in your fingers, it hurt your fingers. And I said, ooh, you'd be amazing to keep, because no matter what, your inherent qualities are gorgeous. And it was really a very even distribution. Whatever Ron had sent me had been worked, because all the plants were unbelievably consistent in morphology and fundamental aromas. That one just stood out because it had such a deep, rich earth compared to the more fruit ones. They all had an earth element, but this one basically pushed the fruit out and just focused. It almost reminded me of like a really good Bubba, really good, LAPK with that, that coffee chocolate earth, but way better hash variety. Like the fucking resin was incredible. And so I said, ooh, let's.
What? You just broke up for a split second.
Oh yeah, no, I had a message flash across the screen. I said, let's put them together, because what I want to be able to do is add that funk to it and let the two of them work together. So it was too nice a plant to just let go. And I didn't really want to reverse it on itself. I just wanted to keep it. And then I said, this male would go well with it. So the female that it came from was kick ass. Like that was the best one out of the whole collection. But like I said, he's been working for fucking 30, 40 years. So his population work is always good. It's just you get to a point in your life where you're too old to remember. Like, you know what I mean? You got
Yes.
too much shit, too many, 10,000 lines. I mean, fuck, he guy worked nonstop for, I don't know, 4 decades.
Hold on. And I'm
What's going
back.
on in the picture below? Is someone sorting seed? Or are they trimming weed?
That's rotten skateboards.
How's it going, Kevin?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Another day in paradise, still humping the dream.
Were you
Yeah,
trimming
that's what we call
or?
it. Yeah, it's quite a dream.
420's coming up. Orders are rolling in. I'm on the scissors.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay, so there's the Topanga OG.
And I went into the OG because I liked that Topanga cut, and that cross did so well with the TK, where it really thickened up the frame and gave you a more robust, solid chassis, and it didn't knock the fuel off of it. It just added that bottom end funk, and they lined up beautifully. So I said, ooh, let me go throw the Topanga on it. And that way what I have is I have the TK SSP back to the TK, and then I have that TPK to the SSP.
Wait, what?
You got a TK SSP back to the SSP, right?
Yep.
That let me know that the work on the OG would work well structurally and in terms of profile because it lined up so well there.
Got it. And then there's
and these are all limited release things. There's not a ton of them. What I do is, like I said, I'm the one holding this shit. I bank these things so that I have them in my own toolbox. So when I want to pull them out to go play and do things, I have the tools. But they're kind of specific in terms of, like, I just don't hit everything I got in a tent with the same mail because it's a release. It has to have a reason why.
No, and I love hearing. No, I love hearing, and I'm sure everybody else watching. Everyone has like how they're thinking about pairing things up, and I love hearing like especially when you have like you've developed a vocabulary where you can like the bass and like the vocabulary of smell and flavor, right? Where like people in that world can articulate it, and it's always interesting to hear people like what you're trying to bring in flavor wise from both sides and like why you think that works. So it's fun to listen to.
Oh, awesome. Because it's sure as hell fun to do.
Do you see this?
A lot of people say TCPK is the same as the Hollywood. And at the end of the day, right, the Malibu, the Topanga, the Hollywood, they're all fucking names. And yes, some of them were identical and some of them weren't, right? Like, what copy did you get? So the Topanga in this case is more of that like lightly burnt marshmallow, right? So we would say that's more akin to like Jackson has I think he calls it the Hollywood, right? Which is that note. Because remember, I had a fucking massive collection OG, but the TPK was always one of my favorites just because I like that subtle burnt marshmallowy kind of floating around in the gas. So the issue is that when you got a copy of something and you were told something, was it really that? Which is this problem we have in cannabis in general, is that we all receive something and you were told it was something, but you don't really know. You would know if it was handed to you from the guy that fucking created it and it had never left his hands. But the reality is the number, and I don't throw people under the bus, but the number of people who've lost foundation work and had to hit me or other people up that hold weird shit to get it back, right? Because they lost the fucking foundation plant. It doesn't exist. And they're like, we got a fucking problem. And I'm like, no, I still hold it. And it was like, even with Mandel, right? When Mandel, remember, me and Mandel were friends, right? We had a fucking friendship. We hung out, right? When he was trying to do this project at a creamery. There was a creamery in Lolita, this giant fucking dairy building, and he was going to turn it into this mega cannabis complex around Prop 19 time, right? Which was like the first big, almost legal cannabis bill, right? It's prior to pre-64. And So fucking Mac is gonna do this project. And well, the problem was Mac was a bold motherfucker. He moved a little too quick, and so the feds jumped on him, and he fled for his life and took off. And what I had done is, since we hung out, I had a bunch of his foundation plants as clone. I just banked them. I just put them away and held them. And when he comes back into the picture years later, he's talking to me. He's like, Kev, he's like, my whole life is fucked because I lost all my shit. And I said, no, I got the Royal, the Truth, and your best OG. The three things you did most of your work with, I have. So I gave him back all his plants. And it was positive for him because he gets his plants back, but he also knows he's the one that gave me those plants. I'm the one giving them back. He knows that those are the things directly. So it allows you some level of security on the lineage, right? But for most stuff, when someone said, this is this, I said, okay, and I just listed it. When you get everybody in the room together, everybody fights it out, it makes you realize that so much of the stuff we touch, we just got it and a name was given to it, but it doesn't mean that it's real. It's like Blood Diamond OG, right? I bet I sold, I don't know, fucking 500,000 clones of it, right? Literally. The blood, it was a Hell's Angels cut. It's just that the guy that brought it to me said, it's the Blood Diamond. And I said, what the fuck's a Blood Diamond? And he goes, bro, that DiCaprio movie's hot right now. And he goes, and so I'm putting the Blood Diamond on it because Hell's Angels isn't hot. It's turning people off because it's too biker heavy, right? It's like too much of an intense name. He said, so I took the name from the movie and put it on the cut. And I said, okay, we'll call it the Blood Diamond. But anybody that asked me what it was, I'd say, look, it's a Hell's Angels cut. It's out of their fucking library. Homie just renamed it. But the point is that unless I told you that story, you believe it's the Blood Diamond and you don't really realize it's really just renamed HA. Right? So I told everyone I knew, but you can't tell every human on Earth. You know what I mean? So that's the problem we have with a lot of this shit, is that what matters, and this is for anybody that's on any fucking forum, the name doesn't fucking matter. What matters is it a good plant? Is the plant good? Does the fucking plant do what you want it to do? I don't give a shit if it's called
but what you've articulated is kind of something I always try to articulate, which is like a good smoke's a good smoke.
Period.
But it's funny, but like when you smoke something back in 95 that has a name and someone were you already on the West Coast in 95?
Oh yeah, I was on the West Coast since 87.
Okay, so I
was way West Coast in the mid 80s because I was in Hawaii, but since 87.
But my point is, you could have smoked something that had a name back in 95 in Cali. Someone else could have smoked something with the same name in Boston. They were both great smokes. They were called the same thing. And so for us today, it's always like, okay, was everybody smoking the same thing that was called something? And then let's discuss it, because then you're discussing like your memories of it. And it's always,
it's like Diesel, right?
It'd be like if we were all talking about music, but we couldn't just play the song for everybody to be like, that's the song I remember. It's like we're verbalizing memories, and then like people were from different, so like sometimes it was the exact same thing, sometimes it was different, sometimes, to the story you just told, the same thing is now renamed something else.
And it makes it right? Very difficult to find any kind. And even if we genotype it, right? Even if we go through all the right work to get information that allows us, let me just plug the battery in. Information allows us to know that this thing is supposed to be this thing. Like what we've learned is, without a doubt, that plants are plastic. They change and move, and they just do. So basically, nothing stays the same. It's just like, when we look at celebrities and we're like, whoa, you look so old, and then I look in the mirror and go, fuck, so do I. So it's
a fast downhill.
It does, and it's just what it comes down to is like, is good, and even And then it's the hunt for a thing that you might never see it again. You might have had the only copy of it. It might only been held by 10 people, or it has a name. I just using the word diesel because there was a period of time when everybody started buying diesel trucks, right? When the diesel truck phenomenon emerged, the new wave of everybody's driving diesel. Diesel became like a slang term for like fucking big and robust and ballsy. The number of people I knew that were naming their varieties diesel, it was unreal. It was diesel was woven in everything. I'd be like sour diesel, original diesel, no, like Ford Power Stroke diesel, and I was dying because I'm like, holy fuck, there's no way to keep track. But at the end of the day, when you run them, is it a good plant? And that's all I care about. And the number of plants I've thrown out that I really wish I could have kept because I had a connection to the name. When I ran them, I said, it's okay. But that tobacco cut was nasty.
No, and I also like just kind of like a squirrel with nuts, right? Like sending shit out to friends and like between a collective group of friends, it's like, this is new to me, so I'm going to be into it for a while. So I'll hold it for a while. And then someone else who used to have it is like, does anybody have that? And someone's currently playing with it and you can get it back to, it's like digging through old
I got friends
records.
that are feminization freaks, right? Where they they fucking self and everything. So what it does, it allows me to be able to send plants to them. I'm saying because I can access stock that's hard to find. And I just send it to them and say, here, go big. And when you end up doing the reversal on it, just send me 100 seeds so I have it in form so I can open it up and sift through. You start holding on to things so much that you don't know what you panic. It becomes so fucking important, you panic. And that's not the life I'm trying to live here, where if I lost this cut, I'd go fucking hang myself. I'm like, no, it's just another cut. And I would be sad. There's plants that I've lost that I wish I hadn't lost. But at the same time, it isn't like I quit smoking and fucking went into a monastery to be a fucking monk because I was so devastated from the fucking loss, right? I just moved forward. And that's just the game, man, that it's the gene game. It's a never-ending wave of material. And it's a non-stop process. And what we do is we find things that we locate that have a name. But at the end of the day, if I run it and I don't like it, I don't like it, And if I do, now I can send it in and get it banked, right? I can send it into the lab and have them hold it in vitro, which makes my life a lot easier because who the fuck wants to hold 600 plants in their fucking house? And people tell me I do. And I'm like, bro, I've been doing this since I was a teenager. This shit gets old. There's got to be some daily part of your life where you can go and hang out with your kids. You can take off out of town and you don't have to have a fucking team tend your shit, because the stuff that we work privately is separate than the stuff we work through Metric, right? So like the two worlds are different, and Metric's a fucking nightmare, and it's utilized for your farm stuff, but all your personal collections, the things you play with, the breeding projects, you want to fuck around with all that under tag canopy. You got yourself a fucking logistical nightmare. And so how do we hold all these things? And so what I do is I only hold certain things for so long, and then I share them out to people. And it's been really a positive process in sharing plants because for the most part, every now and then I don't get a copy back. I even had people so I've had some motherfuckers tell me, do you know how much that plant's worth, Kev? I can't give it back to you. I have to sell it to you. And I'm like, I gave you the fucking plant. Of course I know what it's worth. What I'm saying is give me back the goddamn copy. Oh, I don't know, bro. It's worth a lot of money. I'm getting offers. And I'm like, but I sent it to you. And I said, you know what? You keep that motherfucker. You keep it. And I just know that I don't need to fuck with you any longer because that kind of behavior just doesn't work. And the only way we can maintain what we would call like cannabis culture to me was that a bunch of us are all willing to share material with each other and create common benefit. And I got so many good friends and associates I deal with in that capacity that it lets me know it's true. And it's not even about known superstars. It's mostly just regular people who love herb, who have a tent with a couple of plants that they really dig. And they hit me up and ask a question. I'm saying, look, I'll send you the clone. holy fuck, they'll keep that clone for 10 fucking years. And then they're willing with a hit you on the phone and say, bro, I got some incredible shit I want to send you. And you're like, whoa. I'm like, you don't have to. And they're like, no, I know, but I want to. And what it does, it starts to create that reciprocity loop so that people that have access get to actually let regular people benefit from the access, which to me is what I've never liked in cannabis. I don't give a fuck how high up in the game I got. I never liked that royalty shit. I just don't like it. I for me, and it's not even about like phrases, master, propagator, master. Those are just ranks of skill set, right? They are real. But when it comes to how you treat other people, I don't believe in the royalty shit. I think that people are people, and if they're good, they're good. And if they have nothing to offer me, I'm okay with it as long as they're able to say, Kev, I'm really about a plant. If you ever come across it, I would love to know. That's about as honest a statement as it gets. And if you're being patient and decent, I'm down to work. Man, I promised stock to people and didn't get it to them quick enough. And they had nervous fucking breakdowns about me not getting the plant to them fast. I said, bro, I told you I'd get you the fucking thing, but I'm not even home. I'm bopping around the fucking planet right now. And I said, at some point when I get back, I said, my number one I said, I'm not selling it to you. I'm not asking for any fucking thing. Just be patient. And I'm patient with cats. Sometimes it takes fucking years
Smoke
to
some
get
weed.
something. It's the cannabis world sometimes is so confusing because the drug itself is so chill, but the motherfuckers that are in it are not.
Yes. No,
You got it. It's just what it is. And it's all good.
I'm
I
not
love being
into
here.
everything you've been saying for the past couple of, no, I mean, I love, like, I feel like everybody watching is kind of like the home. I bring everything back to music analogies, but it's like being a DJ in New York in the 90s, where like you're going into record stores and like hunting through crates of shit that you've never heard before and just like playing song after song after song and being like, that's okay, that's okay, that's okay. Like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I'm going to have that as part of my own collection. Like, everybody enjoys trying different stuff and exploring, and obviously some people stick with some of the same stuff for medical reasons or other, like, it just works for them. But like, I think a lot of people just like to kind of, like, I wouldn't want to listen to the same, like, I always hate the like island question, like what one album or what one weed like strain would you,
One or
and I'm
two.
just
Yeah,
like,
no.
or like
Give me some
what
genres.
ethnic food would you only want to eat for the rest of your life? And I'm like, I'd be fucking miserable.
No, even like I love lobster, right? Because I ate so much of it as a kid because my fucking we're a lobsterman, right?
I'm
So
so lobstered out.
any human could fucking eat, and I do love to eat it. But someone said you eat it every day. I said, oh God, no, you get bored of that shit quick. It's like anything.
My
Everybody
wife
wants what they don't
attacks
have until they
lobster like
have
she's
it.
never had it before. Every time we see it like on a menu or something, and I'm just like, I'm good. Like, and then when we go back to Rhode Island, it's like, I'm eating like lobster rolls, lobster
bisque,
bisque.
lobster soup, fucking boiled lobster. What I want is New York system hot dogs, right? The kind that'll fucking cage you in a week. Just eat them once and you're already older and uglier. But I fucking love New York system, right? I do. That fucking dog with the meat sauce and the way that hairy guy fucking puts 30 hot dogs up his hairy ass arm. And you never once tripped on any of that shit as a kid. And then you get older and you're like, yeah, I'm so lobstered out. It's just hella funny because nowadays, holy fuck, you got to basically be hairless, skinless, covered in rubber so they can serve the fucking toxic dog. And I'm like, no, the guy's fucking arm hair added ambiance to the experience. It's what held the bun in place on his arm while he was fucking dusting it with all the shit.
Yeah, what I like is like everybody in New England was nodding probably when you're like, I don't need lobster everywhere I go. Like, I've gotten enough of it to last a lifetime.
Yeah, and when I have it, I love it. I had some in New England when I was there and I enjoyed it. But it just comes down to, it's nice to be able to have some selection, and it's nice to be able to, that's why there is no best. because best is always reflective of you. So you may have a best, but that doesn't mean it's a universal best. And when we talk about like, yeah, but it won a competition, I'm like, yeah, but competitions are by a bunch of weed judges, not the general public. When the general public makes decisions, it's almost very, very different than the ones professionals make. And the word best is always applied to you. And so when you say this is your best shit, you're not wrong. And I don't argue with you. If someone said, the only thing we can argue, and I learned this from the Russians, right? Because I was involved in all that sport for so long, and I had all these fucking Russian world champions and coaches and scientists like drowning in it for fucking years, decades of nothing but ultra high level sport access where we're traveling to Russia. Like there's levels and then there's that level. And they all said the same thing. There is no best unless we're talking about divided by time. That the minute you put a time constraint in where we want to achieve a result in a specific amount of time, now there's best. But when we don't put the time on it, there is no best. It's about what lets the organism develop. But when we start to narrow the focus, it cuts that shit right out, where your program isn't as good as mine because I have 3 Olympic gold medalists and you have none. And it was about being able to make it within time. So even in this, and that helped me tremendously understand that with like life, where it's okay to do what you want to do if you're going to take 50 years to get the result. But if you only have 5 years to get the result, this method's better.
Right.
And it gets you there quicker. And that is how we define better under that constraint. But if it's just about you have a lifetime to do what you do, don't worry about it. But if you got the Olympics coming up in 5 years, you don't have a lot of fucking options on how you prepare for it. That shit is pretty well laid out. And if you don't follow that, because it's basically, the Olympics are considered the ultimate of all athletic endeavors because you have to peak for one day in 4 years. So being world champion is huge, but it's every year. So you can do it over and over and over, and maybe you'll catch a world title. But an Olympic gold medal is so unbelievably hard to get because it's a 4-year peaking cycle. And if you look at people that have won multiple Olympic medals, like in multiple Olympics, you're looking at a level of athlete and coaching that is beyond comprehension. People have no clue the difficulty it is to put together a fucking periodized program.
What?
That
Now I'm thinking
years.
like when you see how like the anxiety that you can see in a figure skater or like a gymnast, right? Like who won the worlds and then just like chokes in the Olympics, like where they're just like falling on every
because
spin.
the pressure is so great because you might never get a chance to do it again, because depending on your age when you compete in that first Olympics, you might already be at your peak. And so the idea that you're going to get another shot, and that's where, like, when you see the stories of redemption, like, remember Dan Johnson was the figure skater, and his sister dies, and he's supposed to just be this devastating skater. And he was mentally fucked up, man. He was traumatized because his sister had passed, and he fails in the Olympics, and the world brands him a total failure and shit. And he's got to go home. It was like when I talked to Ricky Williams about what it was like to be Ricky Williams. And he was like, Kev, he goes, I'm a Heisman Trophy winner. He goes, I'm just killing it in the NFL. He said, I choose cannabis over the NFL because I was just too cognizant of the damage that the painkillers were doing to us. And I didn't want to fucking get CTE and be destroyed. So I choose healthy lifestyle instead of the money. And he said, and I still have a copy of the newspaper that said Ricky Williams' greatest failure in sports history. He said, he and I were just sitting in the car talking. And he's like, and it let me see somebody that was resilient beyond comprehension. Like Ricky Williams is a fucking really nice guy. If you get a chance to be around Ricky Williams, he's a sweetheart of a dude. I mean, what a nice fucking dude. But talk about mentally strong, because we're talking 1 billion people are calling him an idiot because he gave up the money to smoke pot. And he's like, no, I didn't give up the money to smoke pot. I gave up the money to have a quality of life. And herb was something that was allowing me to understand it. That through herb, I realized this isn't healthy for me. The physical beating
I mean,
I'm taking isn't
especially
worth it.
with football, like in a way, him walking away early was like the smart thing to do, right?
And
Like
you're a fucking running back.
play 3 years in pro and be like, did it? Like obviously I could make more money, but
And
when
he
you
did.
see
He
the
did.
brain
He did.
injuries,
He has over 10,000 yards, right? So it isn't like, I mean, we're talking, he was #1 rusher. He was killing it. Super talented dude. You know, when I talked to him about like, you know, the whole thing with football, he was a baseball player, kind of like Bo Jackson. He wrestled, played baseball, and played football. And I said, what was the football deal? And he goes, I didn't anticipate playing football, Kev. I was going to be a baseball player. So I said, let me finish off my high school football with a good 4-year college program so I never have any regrets. And I'll choose either like Florida or Texas where football's king so that I can just live it. He goes, I didn't expect to win a fucking Heisman. He said, I just blossomed into a great football player. I won the Heisman. He goes, and fuck. He goes, once you win the Heisman, it kind of opens the door to real money in the draft. And so he said, you know, when I got drafted, he goes, I got a check for like fucking $2.5 million, which at that time was huge, right? Be like getting a check for 20 right now. And he's like, fuck. So he goes into the NFL, does it, but he's having to, you know, work through the fact that the beating is unbelievable. But the part that got me most was when he looked at me and he was like, I was considered the biggest failure in sports history. He said, and everywhere I went, that's what I had to hear. He goes, yesterday I was a great athlete, running the fucking ball, doing miraculous shit. People fucking looking at my highlights. He goes, the next day, because I made a decision for my well-being, I'm a failure and I'm a fuck up and I'm a loser and I'm the greatest failure in sports history. And he just looked at me and he shook his head and I looked at him and I was like, holy fuck, man. Like, I don't even know how one would approach that level of weight.
well, it didn't just come from fans. I'm sure, like,
No,
you know,
everybody.
maybe other players, like some players were probably cool with it, but like I'm sure the coaches and management and owners were all like, you know, they could be popping pills and getting wasted, you know, but
Because they're not on the
just
goddamn
looking
field.
down on him.
They're not on the field. And that's the thing, is that it's like I have a young son that's a physical monster, right? So my oldest son is a world-class strength endurance athlete, right? Akin to like being a really good rower, where his heart and lung his capacity is fucking beyond, like even the Russians are like, that motherfucker's unique. So when the Russians never lie to you, right? When it comes to like athletic shit, the Russians don't lie. They tell you, what did the coach say to me? He goes, Kevin, your mind is great, but you have no talent. And we were crying, right? He said, but if you work hard one day, you will be average. And so, yeah, literally, right? So I fucking cracked up, but I was a really good coach. And I actually became a really good lifter, but because of my age bracket, right? So it let me have this great career, which was great. So the Russians were happy. They helped me. But the head coaches were honest. But with my kid, they were like, whoa, he could be somebody because he has the inherent ability to do so. And people believe that you can will yourself into greatness, but like it isn't 10,000 hours. If you don't have the respiratory function, if you don't have the right level of fast twitch fiber, if your CNS isn't developed correctly, you don't rewire yourself. You don't fucking change these things.
Lots of guys have Michael Jordan's work ethic.
You got to have the work. It all has to be together. And when the Russians took my kid through the program, what they did the first time we went out was they basically fucking beat him to death till he was bloody. And they were trying to see, does he have the will? Right? It wasn't about ability. It was like they knew he had the physical gifts, but they said, let's see what he can fucking do when he's being really tortured. And they beat him to death until he reached a point where they were like, you got the right willpower. And then we went out to Russia because we did that in Greece. Then we went out to Russia and he went out there multiple times and spent fucking weeks with these guys. Fuck, they gave him an honorary citizenship of St. Petersburg. They had nothing but support for him. They couldn't believe there was an American kid killing it in a Russian sport. And they were about it because they were about excellence in athletics, not so much nationalism, but in the human organism. And so much of that is life. And like, that's why I brought up the thing with Ricky is I just remember him looking at me saying, when the whole world shit on me, man, it was lonely for a minute. And I couldn't even imagine, because I've never had the whole world revere me. Like, I wouldn't know what it was like to be that. I mean, fuck, they just renamed Texas Field the Williams Earl Campbell Field, right? So they just named the stadium
That's
after
awesome.
him. Yeah, it's great. I know he was.
That
and
must be
whenever
a good
I want to show
feeling.
someone like highlights of a running back, I show him Ricky highlights, right? And then I hit Ricky up and say, Ricky, I'm watching your highlights. And he laughs and he's like, oh, that's great, because those are things from his past. But it was the ability to handle adversity and not have to diminish yourself because the world doesn't agree with you. And that was all from basically what we talked about with cannabis, in that if it's great to you, it's great. You don't have to get confirmation. I don't need you to confirm that I love my chick. I don't need you to confirm that my kid is good, because I'm with them myself. It's great that they do good in school and that they like them at school, but at the end of the day, you're still mine. And so I don't need the world to tell me what to think. And that's something that is hard for a lot of people, because we become kind of groupthink, especially through the internet and through social media, where they basically pound. If it's not this, it's not right. And you want to be part of the right crew. And for me, I always call that like the royalty group, where they make the decision, everyone else follows. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, no, I remember in the same venue you came to speak down in Venice. I had my friend Kenny Florian, who was an MMA fighter, and
I know Kenny Florian. He was a good
Kasim
fighter
Osgood.
too.
Yeah. And then Kasim Osgood, who played in the NFL, and it was on opiates and professional sports. And I had this lawyer who had written a book on opiate addiction, the opioid pandemic in America, basically. But what I always found insane was, like, you're a pro football player. They're happy to write you an addictive painkiller prescription as fast as possible. Right? So, like, you're finishing an away game, you're getting back on the plane, your body's like, I mean, you just took a pounding for an hour, or 3 hours or whatever, but like, you're just pumped full of pills. And, like, for Ricky to have to be like, that's fucked, I don't want to do those pills, right? Like, I want to do, like, and then to be demonized for it. So it's just like his whole, it's like a Greek tragedy, kind of, right? But, like, I love the
100%.
redemption at the end of them naming a stadium after him.
So he gets his comeuppance in that regard, and it's just that the assault, like, no matter what happens after the fact, the ass kicking you took for your decision, like, I'm sure during that multi-year, I remember that too. I was thinking, because they made it that way. They completely changed the narrative. It became Ricky wants to smoke dope, and he doesn't care about anything. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's some fucking crazy shit. And then I get to meet him in person, and we're hanging out, and he was probably the most grounded superstar I've ever been around. Like, talk about a humble, nice guy, right? It was shocking. And so I said, hey, if you want to come fucking hang out, we can go hang out in Humboldt, and I'll go take you up the mountains. We'll go explore some cool shit. So me and my son and him, we took him out and let him go check out all the fucking mountain ranges around us. And we just got to spend time hanging out. And it was in the conversations with him in that regard that I got to see this really thoughtful, grounded guy who made a conscious decision on what is best for Ricky. And when he made that decision, they had to change the narrative so that it didn't look like it was best for Ricky. It looks like Ricky was a fuck up and couldn't make good decisions. And then the whole world is challenging you, because everyone is always saying the same thing. Take the money, take the money. But you're like, if I take the money for another couple seasons, I'll never be able to remember my kid's name. And if you look at the CTE shit going on, I mean, fuck, like, I grew up in a neighborhood full of punchy dudes, right? Like, my neighborhood is full of fucking good fighters. And one of my buddies was a world champion fucking fighter, right? So like, their eyes change. Their fucking pupils don't dilate correctly anymore from getting hit in the head. And by the time they're fucking 40, they're not quite there anymore. And everyone's like, yeah, but they're legends. I'm like, yeah, but for a short period of time. And then they have brain damage, 90% of them. And I'm like, is that what this is about?
And you don't get to remember you were a legend.
You have that, yeah. You're like Gerald McClellan, right? G-Man from Kronk, where he was this devastating fighter, and he ends up having like a brain aneurysm in a fight with Nigel Benn, and he never recovered, and he's all fucked up still, and he's still alive. But like, is that really worth it? Is a slice of fame for a minute worth that much? And each individual makes that determination. It's not for me to make, but it's for me to make my own decision. And for Ricky, that's the point, is that he made a decision for himself. He didn't make it for anyone else. He said, for me, this is the best route. And oh my God, they nailed him to the fucking wall. So if we take that back to the context of cannabis, don't let anybody tell you what the fuck you should and shouldn't like. If you like something, you like it. You do not need to defend it. You don't need to listen to shit talkers let you know you're not fucking somebody special. It doesn't make a difference. If it's good for you, it's good for you, and just accept that fact. There is no expert that is so omnipotent they know what is fucking right for you. You know what's right for you, and you can ask people for reference and for direction and for insight on things, but at the end of the day, we should be allowed to make our own decisions and at least have that freedom to make it without being beaten to fucking death.
I agree.
Like
yeah,
right
no,
now, we can talk about religion, but we're not going to talk about politics because that shit's volatile right now, boy.
Yeah.
Volatile politics right now. So,
wild, terrible shit going on in the world.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And it's above my pay grade. I'm not smart enough to understand what the fuck is going on because none of it makes sense to me. So therefore, I know that it's above my level. I'm just glad I'm not participating.
Yeah, so I strangely, I don't know how I have it, maybe from playing hockey with Canadians, but like I definitely have a little Canadian accent. So
yeah, they don't fuck around, man. We used to flood this neighborhood. We'd flood the yards with the garden
we did
hose,
that,
right? Yeah.
My dad built a big rink outside our house, and every winter he would flood it. Yeah, and then we had a pond, so we would skate on the pond.
The fire hydrant wrenches, and we all got fire hydrant wrenches, and we would use those to fill our swimming pools and at nighttime, so we didn't have to pay for the water. Good old New England, man. New England does what it needs.
Yes.
What else? Now, my mom. You got a couple others on that list? Yeah, there was. I think what.
Well, the Colorado Durban you talked about, the gold hat Ron.
Yeah.
The cheese. I mean, I'll probably come back and I'll email you because I was trying to take notes as you were talking about stuff.
Yeah, I can give you all the information for all of it. But it's all basically plants that I thought would line up well with that male.
Yeah. Topanga OG, Triangle Kush SSP, crossed with SSP, Black Veil SSP, and Hemlock S. And then the Hemlock is the Colorado Durban crossed with
in LA Con.
Right. Okay.
But it has a more open structure. It's gorgeous. It has a more open. It is a fucking beautiful plant, man. That by itself, that clone was killer. And I just wanted to tighten up the frame a little more. And then weave a little bit of that funk. Because the funk is good in anything as long as it's not all funk. Because then all funk is like almost like all citrus, all gas, where it's so one directional, even like all terpinolene, which is usually I don't go with the terpene. But when we talk about all terpinolene, people kind of get that picture. Too much in one direction is awesome for a brief moment. And then you get kind of burned out on it. And so it's the idea of layers. So that what we have is we have multiple layers of it. So every time we smoke it, we go through this discovery process. And because of that discovery process, there it is. Your mind never seems to really reach full satisfaction in terms of satiety where like, I'm good. It's kind of like cola, right? Cola is the only soda that every time you drink it, you'll drink another drink of it. All the other soda. That's why Coca-Cola is such a fucking good investment. That's why Warren Buffett invests in Coca-Cola so heavy, because cola is the only substance that you do not get satiety on when you drink. Next glass of cola. So when I go out and have, like, I don't drink soda because I love Coca-Cola. So when I go out, a fucking party to me is having 2 or 3 Cokes in a row, because the first taste is every bit as fucking good as the last taste. People laugh. They go, "You don't drink soda." I said, "I know, but every once in a while, every couple months, I'll go out to eat and I'll get a Coke. And then I'll have fucking 2 or 3 more. And then I'm like,
and then I'm a case in.
I could do a case of that shit because every taste is tasty. So I know that it works on me the way that Warren Buffett believes it works on
I drank
most.
a ton of Coke when I was younger, and I haven't touched it in years.
No, I don't fuck with any of that shit because it pulls the calcium out of your body. And so it fucks up your stomach pH and stuff. And I don't need the sugar. And at the end of the day, what we want is we want what we want. And if people want to drink soda, drink soda. But I know for me personally, I would rather have an active, healthy life and not have to be on insulin and not have to worry about, you know, these other fucking issues. I just want to be able to be me until I'm no longer able.
And like Ricky, everybody gave you a hard time for not drinking Coke.
Oh my God, my fucking partners, it was the wives of my friends that were like, "You're a fucking health addict. You're a fucking freak. You're always in the gym and shit." I'm like, "Look, I said I could call you a phone addict. Every time I talk to you, you got a fucking phone in your hand looking at some social media shit." I said, "You're spending more time on social media than I am eating and training." I said, "So like, who's the junkie?" I said, "It's just we pick what we pick." And I said, and for me, I already went through all these cycles. Like, I was fucking wild. I didn't miss out on any parties. There was no party we missed. We were putting them on. So there's a point in your life when I got to be like 38, 39, 40. And I just said, I think it's okay for me to go into the next phase of life. And this last 20 years has been unbelievably positive because I looked for other ways to deal with my fucking sanity, right? And so instead of using all the other shit, I just said, look, I
had a bunch of kids.
Yeah, and I had 4 kids, and I had the ability to be able to look at myself in a more adult fashion because I had 40 years of life prior. So we make changes and move forward. We don't stay the same forever. And I don't, the part that hasn't changed is I'm still the same person personality-wise for the most part my whole life. It's just that I'm better about controlling some of my impulses, and I'm less judgmental than I was prior because I understand that everyone's going through their own struggle, and that if I don't have to deal with you, I shouldn't judge you. I judge you if I have to fuck with you. If I have to deal with you and you're a fucking nut, that's real. I have no choice but to make a judgment. But if you're not in my dealings and you're just someone I see, I can be as empathetic as I could possibly be, which I've always basically been. It's just as I get older, I'm like, wait a second, I can't get dragged into this well with you, because you don't get out of the well, you live in the well.
Right.
You know.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was thinking before. So my roommate Greg Renza from Cranston, Rhode Island. When he was little, his nickname was Cannonball because he was this little chunky kid, and then he through high school and college was just all like physical fitness and eating healthy food. And so in college, like, we're just all like ripping tubes and like eating brownies in front of him and always trying to get him to cave in and eat the chocolate chip cookies and the brownies and like dangling it in front of him.
But once you know, it's all good. It's just like the same thing. It's like I don't have to hide from the wild life because I made a conscious decision that I already lived it. So it's okay. And I don't judge people for trying to find peace within their life because it's hard to find, and everyone copes differently. And as long as I don't have to deal with you professionally in that regard, it's pretty easy. You're looking intently at something, Peter.
No, I'm trying to, with my vision, like as I get older, stuff that's close if I have my glasses on, now I have to take them off to see close-up stuff. Now, but they're talking about someone running for governor somewhere. What state are we talking? Oh, here we go. BJ.
Oh,
So we're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
Gavin
no.
Newsom.
BJ, I was just funny. I was just looking at an article about BJ the other day. It was talking about BJ. I don't know Mickey Ward. I never met Mickey, and I didn't know Arturo Gotti. I didn't know those guys. Because remember, I was going long after they, like, I'm older than them guys. But with BJ was the single most explosive athlete in UFC history in terms of neuron capacity, right? So when he got trained by Marvin Marinovich, he almost fucking beat GSP in that first fight. And an interview with GSP I was watching the other night, he talked about, BJ being the single greatest fucking athlete he'd ever seen in his life. And he's like, I've never competed against anybody his level. But the thing is, he stayed in the game for too long, and I think he got too much head trauma. And BJ comes from a wealthy family, well-to-do, kind of like the Huas, Shogun, Ninja Hua, wealthy families, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that it allows you to be able to have a different aspect to your training. But BJ took too many fights, and now he's fighting in the fucking street after the nightclubs and shit. And I'm just like, BJ, you're unfortunately too much of a warrior to ever stop being one. And it's a bummer to watch, because when you see him communicate, he's not clearly enunciating words anymore either. And that stuff just, it's painful. Like, I mean, I had friends that fought too much, and all it takes is just one fight too many, and a little piece of you never comes back. And it's always in the eye. It's always in this weird blackness in the eye. When you look at them, their eyes are black, like empty. And it's heavy, because we all aspire for greatness, and for people that are born with the ability to whip other humans' ass, that's the most money you make. I mean, that, soccer right now is paying the most, but like if you're the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, you are without question this is probably the single most well-known athlete on earth, purely for the ability to beat other people up. But you got to take a beating in the process, and I don't see any of these guys doing well. And like with my son, my youngest son's a physical fucking wrecking machine, and everyone's like, oh, you got to get him into sports. And I'm like, look, he's an artist. I would rather him work on clay and do art and just be blessed with this incredible body and this physicality than put him into hockey, put him into football, like the things where that type of fucking sledgehammer frame works. I'd rather not encourage it. Just because I don't want to see him get the damage, man. I'm watching too many of these pro football players being walked down the stairs by their children, and I'm like, that is not the goal. Yeah, but they made the money. I'm like, they didn't fuck with what. Who cares? What they're going to use most of it to take care of them in the care home. If money's everything that is,
there's definitely a luckiness of which sport you go pro into. Like, you could be a basketball player, and it's physical, but it's not like football physical,
totally,
right? So like,
but you have to have
you get the upside
sets to play it. And some people are naturally gifted. You got multi-sport athletes. Ricky was baseball, football. Bo Jackson's baseball, football. Dion's baseball, football. So they were both, they could play at those high levels. But if you know somebody by name that's a dual sport athlete, that means that they're one in like a fucking billion. So what's the odds of, not good? And so what you find is that if your kids want to play it, you allow them to play it. But I think for a lot of people, you get pushed into things because your parents want you to be in it. And they have an aspiration, a dream. And you end up having to kind of live your parents' dream. And they want to live vicariously through you, believing that if they had this level of support, they would have been somebody. So they're going to give you that level of support. And my partner, Pedro, he was like, you see me hanging out all these years. He was a phenomenal football player in high school. I mean, when you go to the airport.
Todd Marinovich. Right?
Yeah, unfucking believable. Like, P's got a fucking bust of him at the airport talking about, like, greatest defensive football player in Hawaiian high school fucking history. He was a superstar and just unbelievably talented athlete. And he was telling me about kids on his team where after the game, their parents would come out and then make them play another, like train them after the game. Like the parents were so determined that these kids were going to be who they couldn't, that they fundamentally wore the fucking kids out, and those kids never had a career at all. So it's more than just the person and the parent and the sport. It's circumstance, and sometimes the thing that you're really good at. It was like Walker Brown, right? You know Walker Brown is? Walker Brown is Sugar Ray Robinson. That's not his fucking name. He's not Robinson. He's not Sugar Ray. He's Walker Brown. He didn't want to be a fucking fighter. He wanted to be a singer and a dancer, but nobody gave a fuck about him singing and dancing unless he was fighting. And because he was gifted in fighting beyond anyone's comprehension, there's no fighter of any era that fucking stand next to this fucking guy in terms of what he's able to do. He was without question one of the most talented fucking fighters that ever walked the fucking earth. And he didn't want to be a fighter. And so he quits fighting and he goes into entertainment, because while he was a fighter, he was in entertainment. Everybody loved him. But the minute he wasn't beating people up, nobody gave a shit about his entertainment. They didn't care that he could tap dance and sing. They wanted to see him beat people up. And so he was always going through these conundrums of who the public wanted him to be versus who he wanted to be. Sugar Ray Leonard didn't want to be a fighter, right? Sugar Ray was the same guy, man. Well, like he was a killer, but really that wasn't it. That was where the money was. And so they all get the benefit of it, but without question, you pay a toll. And for some people, if your brain isn't situated in your skull cavity correctly and your skull cavity doesn't have the right fucking density, you end up getting a lot of internal concussion from the brain sloshing around. Like
you think of Tua, where it's like, dude, you should just retire.
Yes.
Like if I were that guy, knowing how many severe concussions he's got, like Eric Lindros, I'm just thinking of who did Kevin Stevens? I feel like there was a hockey player who had serious brain issues.
Oh, just too many. If you look at the good example of like a superior skeleton is this guy named Julio Cesar Chavez, right? Chavez was a lightweight champion of the world. And I think he went like 89-0 before he lost his first fight, true first loss. But when they x-rayed Chavez and they did bone density on him, he had like the largest skeletal.
Nico Windsor, Waldorf, and Statler.
Yeah, who cares about
biggest
the
heckler
this is
for today,
boxing, right? And so, but the point is, it was that who cares about the UFC? Fucking a lot of people, because at the end of the day, like studying combat is really understanding human struggle, because they really do mirror the same. And so much of the struggle is there's athletes that fight and they're athletes, and then there's fighters that fight and they're fighters, and typically the better fighter wins, because athleticism is the ability to execute, but fighter is the ability to execute under fucking abuse. And I think that like I think that's one of the problems of the old world of cannabis and the new world of cannabis is that now you have to kind of struggle with paperwork abuse. You have to work with regulatory abuse. But in times past, you had to deal with a different type of abuse. And so our personality types are very different. And now we're not needed. Our ability to do what we did is no longer required. And so many people feel misplaced because of it, because all of a sudden they're like, we're not valid. And what they want is they want credit for what they did. But at the end of the day, the world doesn't do that. The world doesn't give you credit because you demanded it. It gives you credit when it's convenient. And you just got to accept it. He was, man. Chavez was ripping in his day, man. But he had a very unique skeletal situation. He had the largest skeletal configuration for anybody at 140 pounds, like ever. And his skull was double the normal thickness, and his brain was positioned perfect. I mean, you must say, like, I'm a fucking sports science freak, right? His brain was positioned perfectly in the middle of it, so that he never had his brain slopping around and hitting the walls of the internal to give him that shock. So for someone like Chavez, who got punched in the face continuously because that was part of his game plan, was he had a better chin, he doesn't have the brain damage issues. But the people that he fought, that he punched in the head, sure as fuck do. Oh, he damaged some people. So, you know, it's just, and I don't even, it's funny, I don't even watch UFC. I don't even watch fighting anymore. But I was involved in boxing as a kid, and then I got into the Bay Area, and I got into boxing at a gym in Oakland, right, where I was the only white dude in the whole fucking gym. And I ended up hooking up with the owner of the gym. We became friends. He was my coach. And I ended up building the new gym for him. So the King's Gym in Oakland is a gym I built. And so because I built the gym, all the old trainers were like, it was like I had done something special. And it allowed all these old men to just sit there and just talk to me while we watched fighters. And I realized that I didn't want to be a fighter because I didn't like fucking headache that lasted 3 days. Like, I didn't mind the fucking combat. I did not like what happened after the combat. I didn't like the headache. I didn't like the feeling of like, whoa, you know, and I needed it at that time. I needed that combat. Like, I wanted that blood, and I needed it. And after I got enough of it, I said, I'm good. And I just trained there and I hung out and spent time. But I spent time with all these old black and Mexican men that, you know, all of them were blind in one eye. All of them fucking gristled from years of abuse because the system ate them up and spit them out. But their knowledge of people and of the craft of the human in combat was incomparable. And it let me just see a world. And then we get into all the fighting stuff. And then I used to judge all the fights at the casinos in Humboldt County for years. I judged every fucking fight, MMA and boxing. So I judged all the fights for years here. And eventually I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm okay. And I'd rather be home at night with my kid playing hide and go seek under the bed. You reach a point in your life where your values change and your desires change. But my dive into sports science and that stuff was fucking real. And then I got lucky that my brother's world level athlete. So my little brother's fucking ambidextrous, top 10 in the world, both arms, arm wrestler. Team USA shit, competed all over the world, phenomenal athlete. And then I have a son who develops into a phenomenal fucking athlete. And then I got to coach some phenomenal athletes. But for me, it was just this incredible study of the human organism. And I look at herb really similarly. Like they have a connection between the two to me.
How did your brother discover his arm wrestling talent and then run with it to competitive level?
Well, he was always naturally superior. Like you could tell, like it's hard to control talent. Talent just emerges, right? And so I had a younger brother that was just faster and stronger than anybody around him. And one day, one of my buddies and me we were arm wrestling, like we were drinking, and it was an arm wrestling match for who was going to get to be Russ's brother, right? Like, because I was already his brother, and my brother was little, and he watched me fight with my buddy Mark, and I won, right? So I win the arm wrestling match, and my brother was like, "Oh my God, my older brother won an arm wrestling match to be my brother." That shit lit a fire in him to be an arm wrestler, and so he goes and arm wrestles like fucking crazy, non-professionally, and I take him to.
But the start of it is he just challenging other kids to arm wrestling, completely. Or is he like looking up local arm wrestling competitions in somewhere in Rhode Island?
People for years, and then I take him to a professional tournament, and he wins his first.
But what town was this in Rhode Island?
No, this was in California because he came to live with me when he was 13, and so he's out there smashing, and then I get him into a tournament in Tahoe, and he wins the novice division, which is so rare that you show up for the first time and you win, and all the pros liked him. And so what he did is he just went on this phenomenal dive into how do I become a better arm wrestler. And then at the time it was cannabis money too. So I had the money to support him. So I could send him to all the tournaments. I could fly him out of the country to go train with European killers and shit.
He had your logo on his.
He did. He had the fucking Wonderland logo on. And he ended up taking 11th and 13th in the world when he represented Team USA. So 11th left, 13th right. But so basically, I say he's top 10. But he was amateur world champion, both arms. Like he won. He had a fucking 1,000 trophies in the house.
Is that like being a switch hitter and leading the league in batting average from both sides of the plate?
Yeah, because most people are specialists, but like Russ was ambidextrous, and so he yanked both sides. So he would go through a tournament and pull a full right hand tournament and a full left hand tournament. So just match after match after match. And then we got a gym at my house that we built, like his kettlebell sport arm wrestling gym. And Russ would train his athletes, and he trained my son. And my son actually pulled pro too. So my son, who is a kettlebell sport athlete, Russ trained him, and Kona went out and fucking won in pro divisions as an arm wrestler. So Kona still sets up the table at the house and plays with his friends, and they do some cool shit. And every now and then someone will, like at a bar or something, will say to Cone, let's fucking arm wrestle. And Cone is laughing, but he's like, I'm about to rip your fucking arm. And then he lets him know. Yeah.
Just quickly, I'm blowing my own mind with the thought that's in it. So in the sport of arm wrestling, there's a right-handed world champion and a left-handed world champion.
Correct.
Okay. So then do people argue like who's the best or who's the best ever? Because it's like, well, you were the best for right-handers.
Well, right-handers, you remember that left-hander is only like, a couple decimal points of the population. Right. So there's far more right. It's kind of like if you're talking.
So there's more weight given to the right-hander title
if you're
world champion.
A 160-pound person, most of the world is within 5 to 10 pounds of you left and right. Right. So when you get into athletics and you're in these middle range weight classes and you're right-handed, you're competing against the largest gene pool in the world, because most people fall within that weight class. Most people fall within right hand. So for us, he just said, well, fuck it, I'm going to pull both hands, because bottom line is I'm pulling both hands. And for some athletes, they're at first there was a guy named Devin Lorette who's really famous now in arm wrestling. He's like the arm wrestling messiah, so to speak, where he brings information out. Devin was originally a left-handed killer, and then he goes right-handed because left-handed wasn't giving him the money, because people can't support left-handed winning because they're not left-handed. And with the right hand, it's seen as more legitimate, and then eventually takes right hand.
It's like hand. Ned Flanders leftiporium or whatever his store for left-handed people is.
Yeah, because I have a whole left-handed gene pool in my family. My grandfather's left-handed, my grandmother's left-handed, my son's left-handed, my fucking daughter's left-handed, my brother's ambidextrous. I'm not ambidextrous, but I can write with my left hand if I have to. Right. So like when I smacked somebody in the mouth and broke a fucking knuckle, I had to write with my left hand. I could just write with my left hand, but I'm not ambidextrous. I don't have that same coordination. There it is. There's the Ned Flanders. But yeah, the arm wrestling is fascinating, but it's a healthy sport because you're not getting hit in the head. And at the highest level, it's just unbelievable. Until you see, there's nobody on earth that is stronger in the shoulder to hand than arm wrestlers.
There needs to be like a best in show type mockumentary of like every sport.
There does, because every sport is legitimate. I don't care what it is.
What's the Formula One on Netflix, or like the behind the scenes of a season where you can like see all the drama in like
they did they had an
episodes.
arm wrestling show like that with a bunch of guys, and one of the dudes on it is a guy from Rhode Island named Cobra Rhodes, and so Cobra Rhodes is a black Rhode Islander who goes, and I think he had like 300 matches undefeated, right? Cobra is a fucking legend in the sport. And he goes to Russia and because the Europeans are big on this, he was ripping the Russians. And so Cobra and my brother become friends, and then me and Cobra and my son become friends with Cobra. And Cobra came and visited us at the house one time and hung out. And we got to see Cobra on the table with my brother messing around. It's people that like, they're physical phenomenons, man. Cobra Rhodes, his name's Andrew, but Cobra Rhodes look him up sometime, man. Cobra Rhodes, that motherfucker is real.
So all right, let's look at it's the forearm.
It's the hand, man. He was a top rolling machine. Top rolling is where you take the hand and wrist and turn it. and you control the wrist and hand, and now you're able to take the arm. And the speed and the ability to him to work the hand was unreal. Cobra is a fucking world-class athlete. Super nice guy too, man. I love this dude. Cobra is a really, really good human being, but Rhode Island killer. Killer on the table, boy. Woo! He nasty on the table. He won, he won the Arnold, 5 or 6 years in a row, man. Like he had a phenomenal career. It's just that when you get older, there's a point where, new blood has to come in because you're too old. So there's always a lifespan in the sport, and we got to see all these champions and got to meet them all. And a lot of the cannabis, a lot of the world champion athletes we met all smoked weed secretly, right? So I would meet them with my brother, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm from Humboldt," and we'd go to the hotel room and blaze down. And when my son was little, he'd get to go and train with all these world champions, and they would teach him little things and help him understand concepts better and shit. And it was beautiful. It's a beautiful sport, because when you get to the highest level of sport, there is no fucking secret. There is no secret. It's not that simple. So people aren't that hesitant to share information with people, because it's not that I'm going to give you my one trick and you're going to take me out. It's the same with herb. The number of people that think that once I get your plant, I got you. They're like, fuck, it's a fucking plant. There's going to be another one. It'll come out. And the bottom line is, if it's that valuable and you hoard it that hard, it'll fucking move on the street on its own. So like when you get to mess with really high level athletes, it's the perspective they give you. It's the little tips. It's the support. So I got really lucky. My brother, and my brother's a social fucking monster too. Where he motherfucking knows how to get along with people well. He knows how to get people to play with him. And it allowed him to get an unbelievable amount of support from all these high level champions that realized he was obsessed, he was focused, and he was fucking strong. And they were like, "Whoa, you got potential, man. Like having people like you in the sport is great, because it increases the sport." And with Kona, because Kona was not European, he wasn't Russian, he wasn't Ukrainian, he was American, and he's over there competing against Russians and whipping their fucking ass. He took a silver at the White Knights tournament, right? Man, there's no Americans go to Russia and win shit. He took a fucking silver, man. He made all these Russians cry. Like, it tripped him out, because he didn't really understand that the importance of victory in that country until he went in the locker room and all these guys were crying together because they had been defeated by this little skinny kid from America. And he was like, whoa. It helped him also understand relevancy of, like, for some people, that is all you got. If this is your gift and this is all you got, it's the only way out of poverty. It's the only way out of, you're in Russia and you're an athlete, you get a better apartment. My partner, Dennis, who's a world champion, who's now lives in America, but he's a multi-time world champion and a phenomenal coach. We were talking about being world champion. He goes, "Kev," "there was the life I had before I was world champion. There's the life I had after I became world champion." He goes, "I don't want to go back to the life before world champion." So like he never missed a fucking session. He never missed. I mean, I'm talking a level of dedication that was unfucking believable, because the only way out of that situation is to win. And when you're around those people that are that obsessed and that dedicated, if you show up with an attitude of you two will fucking bleed out of your ass to fucking win, they will always help you. People want to be applauded because they showed up. The Russians don't give a fuck. They fucking applaud you when you fight to the bitter end, and they go, "That's struggle." And then they respect you, which is the only reason why I got respect as a lifter, because they were like, "Whoa, you will not quit. And you keep getting better." And years later, they're like, "Hey, you got
Your
better.
Your peak is mediocre, and you have no quit in you.
But it's okay. You got better, Kevin. You won. Look, you're doing great. So when you started, you were terrible, but now you're good." And we could all laugh because it's honest, and it was okay, because like for me, I wanted to see that my kid do well, but I had nothing to do with it other than being supportive and helping him. He did all the work. He's the one that put the weight up over his fucking head every day. I didn't. Right? I didn't get on the table. I may have supported my brother and sent him to fucking tournaments around the planet, but I didn't get on the table and fight those tournaments. He did. He's the one that trained. He's the one that did that shit. And
this is actually what I was thinking, like the early days of Cuban defection, where like if you're a star in Cuba, like that's your way out, right?
My buddy's a baseball scout, right? So my partner Craig, is like a professional baseball umpire, right? So he was laughing. He goes, talk about pressure, Kev. He goes, be the umpire in a professional baseball game. He goes, holy fuck, man. He goes, every time the ball's thrown, you're fucking being dissected for your decisions. But he was talking about talent scouting and going to the Dominicans. And he's like, Kev, he goes, you're in the Dominican Republic. He goes, you got kids that are 6 years old that hitting bottle caps with broomsticks and shit. He's like, the desire to get out of poverty is everything. And we in America, even, and it's not that we don't struggle, because there's people in America that are in horrible struggle, equivalent to any country. So it isn't about a competition. It's just, in America, at least you have a couple of different outlets that we once believed were possible. Where in countries like Cuba, even Mexico was the 3 Bs. When I hung out with the Mexican boxing trainers, they said, Kev, it's the 3 Bs. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, boxing, bullfighting, and baseball. He goes, those are the only 3 fucking sports that we really get to, excel and make money in. And football too, but boxing, baseball, and at the time, bullfighting. And bullfighting has been kind of cut out of normal popularity. And I'm not really pro on it, but it's also not from my culture. But you have little opportunity. You take the ones you have. If you're in China and they put you into the communes to work with you, your parents pray that they choose you for a sport, or otherwise your life is rough, man. Like, it's rough. So we're not in that situation to the same degree many other places are, but I got to train with those people, and my brother got to train with them, and my son got to train with them. And at the end of the day, the fight under the weight, the fight on the table, the fight on the canvas, that's what defines you, is the fact that you're willing to if you lose like a gentleman. So anytime my brother lost a match, he was gracious. Anytime he won a match, he was gracious. My son helps competitors out when he says, hey, like, I know you and I about to compete. He goes, but like, let me help you with something. And people say, well, why are you helping the competitor? And he goes, because I'm looking for a real fight. I'm looking for a real win. It's not the W I want. It's the fact that I had to go to war with somebody who really was there to go to war. He goes, that's the win that I want. And that's the win I like too. It's real wins, because they're the wins that other people will talk about. Like, it's defining. We always went where the best competition was. We didn't go where the competition was easy. Any competition we went to is where the best lifters were present, and that's where we went. Because if we could win there, we were doing it. And it sets in motion this vulnerability of, I'm not afraid to lose in public. I'm not afraid to lose. It's okay, because you don't always win. But if you're willing to give it 100% and fail in public and get back up and do it again, you've got the essence of what sport is. It's really overcoming yourself. And I think, like with cannabis, oddly enough, it's the same in a lot of ways. Cannabis allowed a lot of people who were introverted to find a craft that allowed them to find themselves, and subsequently pay them so they could not have to play patty cake with the mainstream world. And in it, it became their identity. And the problem is, as cannabis changed, they lost their identity. And now they're in total fucking disarray because the world doesn't give them the respect it once did. At one point, you could be an oddity, but because you had good herb, people would put up with you. But nowadays, no one gives a shit, and pounds are cheap. So like, a lot of people lost their identity through weed. And I'm always like, no, herb isn't my identity. It's part of my identity. Sport isn't my identity. It's part of my identity. My kids aren't my identity. They're part of my identity. Like, all of it combined makes Kev. That way, no matter what takes place, I'm still me. It lets me be grounded.
You
it lets me.
You put your pants on one leg at a time, like the rest of us.
Yeah, and most do. And when we start to believe we're so inherently special, it discounts other people, and it isolates you from development, because you start to believe you're at the peak of all things. And it might only be in one thing, but just because you're the greatest actor doesn't mean you're not a cook. And just because you're the fucking greatest fucking football player doesn't mean you're not a drive. So it just comes down to being appreciative of what you are good at and what you do, and not being so arrogant that it implies you're great at everything. And I think that that's where, and we do that. That's why actors can endorse products, because we believe that I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. And then you're buying prescription drugs from this fucking dude, and you're laughing, and you're like, bro, you're on house is not a real surgeon.
Right.
I don't give a fuck how many specials he's been in. I'm not giving that guy a fucking scalpel to cut me open.
I was just thinking about something and I totally spaced on it.
That's because you were thinking about House, because that show was brilliant. Like, I mean, Hugh Laury's a brilliant actor, right?
The pill popping curmudgeon doctor who's smarter than everyone else.
Just blasting everybody's immune systems, nuking their fucking white blood cells. He didn't give a shit. He was going to solve the problem. But that does not mean he's really a doctor. And so, you know, you just got to kind of put it into relative perspective of but we idolize these things, and it makes it difficult. And that is weed. Weed is the same. Now that weed is mainstream, we can look at weed very differently than we did in the past, because prior was it's kind of like fucking porn, right? Porn was at one point in time like naughty. Now that shit is, I want to say 20, what's the statistic? 22%, 23% of all fucking women that are in like the, you know, the 20 to 30 bracket are on OnlyFans. So, I mean, we're talking a massive population of people are in softcore porn. You can call it what the fuck you want, but that's
every dad with daughters. That would
literally, right? And I'm like,
the absolute
I don't fault you
worst
for it,
as
but
a dad.
Like, it's mainstream now. So porn went mainstream. It's no longer such a big deal. Cannabis went mainstream. Not such a big deal. And it's just the change. And I think that's what we have to be able to be adept with, is this never ending change, so that we don't get so caught into our place in the picture. And I think that's what's causing some of the older people right now such incredible conflict, is that everything's changing to a level that's beyond their norm. The gender fluidity of kids, where they don't see it as such a black and white issue. It's many things. For older people, they look at that shit as, oh my God, mental illness. And I'm like, no, it's just the reality that people see the picture differently. Main point is, kids are still good kids. So are we more concerned with how they identify, or are we more concerned with how they behave with other people? Right? What's more important here, that they identify with your belief, or that they're good to each other? And so to me, I see the younger kids today, whether we see them as confused or not, I see them far nicer to each other than I'm used to seeing prior generations. And because I got young kids, I trip out.
We have a Chuck Norris.
Oh, hell yeah. Chuck was the man, boy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I like about Chuck? Chuck was the last of the actors that could be fucking hairy. Right? Chuck didn't shave his chest.
And Robin Williams. Robin Williams was pretty hairy too.
He was, but he wasn't an action star. Robin Williams had his shirt on. Whereas Chuck was always half naked, right? So I was making my wife the other night watch The Octagon, right? I was like, oh, The Octagon is like fucking legend. And that's where him and his brother Sakura, they duel it out. And Sakura was this guy named Tadashi Yamashita, who was a fucking weapons expert, right? And the guy's juggling two sickles. They call him Kama. But he's juggling the sickles under his balls, right? I don't give a fuck. Anybody who's swinging bladed sickles under their crotch is insane. And so Chuck Norris has to fuck with Sakura. And in a scene, he's with this chick, and he's got his shirt off. And I'm pointing at my chick. I said, look, that's the last of the hairy men. Like, only Chuck didn't have to shave to be considered sexy. Because right now, there's no hairy dudes on anything. We're not. What? My hairy back is not considered attractive by anyone. Even my daughter laughs. She goes, "God damn, Dad."
Whenever I think of Chuck Norris, I think of this image.
Oh yeah, the Chuck pants. No, I remember we used to buy Chuck Norris jeans because it had the gusset in the crotch, so you could. I'm from the Kung Fu era, man. We were all fucking Kung Fu banging out. Like, I saw Force of One and The Octagon. I saw Bruce Lee's first movie in the theater too. As like a 5-year-old.
So Kenny Florian, his family was all into martial arts and martial arts movies, and like when I would sleep over his house, or he would sleep over my house every Saturday night, And whenever it was sleeping over at his house, like his brothers had nunchucks and throwing stuff, like all kind of like
Yeah, all that shit. I used to make my own throwing
swords.
stars and shurikens. I used to fucking make all my own. I had a metal shop at my old man's shop, right? I'd make all my own throwing stars and shit, and the chucks. And then you'd be working out patterns, and you'd smash yourself in the face and fucking just get wrecked.
Yeah, I had
No,
nunchucks.
yeah, it was great times. That was
They
the
were
kung fu
wood
era,
with
but New
metal
England
on
had a
them.
high kung fu concentration because for whatever reason, most of the kung fu that came into America came into New England first, and then it moved through the rest of the country. And so a lot of the foundation, like when we talk about Taekwondo, that was Heil Cho that came into Rhode Island first. A lot of the original Kempo karate and stuff
Interesting.
all came in from China. Yeah, because my neighborhood was filled with martial arts. And we had Donnie Rodriguez had a kung fu studio, and he ended up teaming up with Paul Mitchell, the hairstylist, right? And he became Team Paul Mitchell, and they were the number one like show kung fu kind of club in America. And so
With
a bunch of my
fantastic
friends,
hair.
yeah, skincare fucking sponsored it, but a bunch of my partners were just phenomenal. So my brother's a martial art wizard too. He can do the Van Damme shit and split on two chairs and jump in the air and kick a fucking penny out of your teeth without breaking your mouth and all that shit.
Wait, this is the arm wrestling brother?
Same brother, man. My brother can hold his foot over his head, and like he was raised in kung fu because kung fu.
He can also do this.
Oh yeah, except that my brother's foot would be over his head.
It'd be even better.
It would. I think Russ Chuck Norris is Chuck Norris. But my brother was gifted. And
does he ever rock the
Chuck
Daisy
is a good
Dukes?
kung fu guy too. But what Chuck was he played the good silent role, and then he was smart and chose roles, and then they ended up creating
the least dialogue
about him that are legend.
Minimum dialogue.
Yeah, and Chuck doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth away from him. You know, that kind of shit. Like I go online sometimes and just look at Chuck Norris jokes because they're so thoughtful. Like they're genius.
Like the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah. What is that for? Is that for tequila or no?
Dos Equis.
Yes, he's the most interesting man in the world. That's brilliant. Somebody did a good job when they came up with that shit.
Yeah, it is good. And they're still doing new ones, and the guy's like 80 something now.
Yeah, totally. I saw a recent one where he pulls some diamond out of the guy's ear, you know.
Right.
But the bottom line is he carries it well, and they know how to. It's the tone. It's all the things. Sometimes they just hit a really good marketing. You know, like they just kill it with the marketing, and you can't deny it. It resonates with people, and it continues on.
There's a Romanian guy who like got paid to be the person in some stock photo stuff, and there was a story about he became a big meme photo, and I was trying to find the photos of him, but like he had no idea that he was exploding with like internet meme fame around the world. I gotta find the image of him.
Well, some of those are just so. You remember that? There's that little girl with that like devilish look, and there's a house burning down behind her. Her father had the original photo, and they turned that into an NFT, and that shit gave her like I don't know $900,000 because it was just a perfect photo the dad took of her with this little devilish look in her eye, and there's a house burning behind her, and they use it for all these memes of like. You know, innocence connected to evil. So it does some really good meme work.
This guy. Here we go. Oh wait, I'm in the right tab. All right.
Oh yes, they use that guy. They use that
Yeah.
guy for all the looks of like heartbreak and disappointment, and he's in everything.
Yeah, so this is what I was reading. This guy, this article.
And he had no idea that he was.
Yeah, this photo.
A billion people must recognize him because he's used in everything.
Anyway, this is the random shit I looked through. But all right, I gotta make dinner for the kids. My wife delegated that important task to me, and I am
and
not
I know
to
you're
fuck
gonna
it
do
up.
a good job, man. All right, man. Much love. Thanks for having me on, and good to see you guys. Peace.
You too. Yeah, and let's follow.
Thank you, audience, for being patient while we went on a fucking sports
while we
science
meandered.
dive.
If you have any written, or even if you take a photo, like you know how you had your notes.
Yeah, I'll put together a little piece for you.
Okay,
I got you.
Amazing. And
all
rotten.
Right, much love, guys. Enjoy.
Right. See you, Kev.
See you, Lobs.
And then I pushed your stuff. I like the short and sweet bio.
I can't hear you all of a sudden. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can other people hear me?
Hold on.
It could we could remove that. Can anybody hear me? All right, I gotta go to the grocery store.
I don't know.
There he is. Can you hear me now?
I can. I don't know why my phone's been doing that. Whenever someone hops off, it just mutes me.
Mine does that sometimes. No, I was saying I liked your short and sweet bio.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
I feel like it leaves a lot of the imagination, but it still says a lot.
Yeah.
Like
people can fill in the blanks around it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I gotta go to the grocery store, I think. So I'll talk to you later.
Right on. I just got finished with dinner myself. Life is good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks for jumping on. See everyone. And